Hey, welcome to the podcast. If you want to master the close and start making millions from sales, marketing, and branding, this episode is for you. And before we introduce our special guest today, it is great to have you back for another episode of the Vince Del Monte podcast dedicated to helping men develop the 5 M's of manhood: muscle, mindset, money, mission, and marriage, where we give you simple, no-nonsense insights and takeaways to become a better man. This podcast is free and will likely always be free of advertising. And right now, we are giving away free M5 apparel in exchange for iTunes reviews. All you need to do is leave a genuine review, screenshot it, and slide it into my DM on Instagram and tell us what M5 outfit you like, and we'll hook you up. Just include your email and home address and size, and we'll ship it out. Hey, if you're new here, be sure to go back and listen to the first 5 episodes laying down the 5 M's of manhood so you can really gain further clarity and context to why this podcast is so important in impacting so many lives. Now, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest today, Jarrod Glandt, who got his first exposure to sales in his 3rd year of college in San Diego, selling print and online advertising, and at 21 became the number 2 rep in his company, making $150K a year. Now, this resulted in naturally dropping out of college to focus on making money, but after a tough corporate experience, he decided to leave the company, leading to a detour I think many of us can relate to, of partying a couple days a week and blowing every dollar he made. And soon, I'm sure we're going to chat about some of the lessons from that, darker time in life, if you will. And after that, he went to Austin to work with his father for 3 years. Unhappy, he was looking for a way out. And that's when I believe his dad introduced him to Grant Cardone, Grant Cardone videos that, in his words, woke him up. And Jarrod became convinced Grant was the person he needed to work for, which is where I'd love to kick off the interview. But first, hey, Jarrod, welcome to the show, bro.
What's going on, man? Good to be here.
Yeah, man. Why don't we just kind of kick off with, what did Grant say in that video that woke you up?
The video, if you haven't seen it, it's probably buried in YouTube with all the videos that we've uploaded since then. But the video is called the "You Can't Handle the Truth" sales meeting. And it was basically just calling out, it was calling you out for being weak, for making excuses, for not accepting responsibility, for not doing whatever it takes. And it was like a smack in the face. And I was like, man, that's what I needed right now, because I'm sitting here, I'm having a pity party. I'm not happy with where I'm at. And I'm becoming the victim in my circumstances, and it really smacked some sense into me. And getting that little smack around put me back into a position of control, and I loved it. I felt empowered again because I went through the whole cycle of excuses, depression, like that whole just negative cycle. And this one thing was like, dude, you're responsible for all this. You created all of this. And it helped me understand that if I'm the creator, I'm also the solution.
I love that. Yeah, there's no one gets served being the victim, playing that profile.
Yeah.
What were some of the lessons from, the time in your life where you were blowing the money? What did you learn? Were there any clarifying moments from that whole experience?
Well, I mean, in the middle of it, it was like, damn, this is fun. But then afterwards, it was, the more money you spend, the more friends you have. Contrary to what Biggie Smalls says, more money doesn't mean more problems. The money that I was making and spending gave me this false sense of who I was and where I was. And I was young at the time, so it was like, I thought it was going to last forever. I thought that, man, if I'm making, 150 or 180 grand in a year at 21, this is just going to keep getting better. I'm going to be making millions. And, I guess you get a little bit of, you start experiencing this nothing can happen to me. Everything's going to be great. The decisions that I'm making now have no repercussions. And I had to learn a hard lesson because, my mom used to always say that I grew up going to church and stuff. And, my mom used to always say, pride comes before the fall. And it's from the Bible. It's from the good book.
Yeah.
And it was true. You get proud, you get entitled, you get all these things that start building you up, and then you get humbled hardcore. And so all of the decisions that seemed fun and seemed great at the time, now I look back on and learn that those were probably the best lessons I ever learned in my life, because now I know exactly what not to do.
It's interesting because you're also talking about like complacency and, things were good. And, when I got exposed to your guys' world, now everything makes sense. Because when I almost had my first, $2 million year, 5 or so years ago. And I remember that's when everyone in my circle started telling me, you're doing great. Just keep doing this. And I believed them. I thought they're right. I should just keep doing this. If I could just, here's the most dangerous words I ever said. If I could just do this again next year. Mm-hmm. And that mindset became the beginning of going backwards. My income started going backwards 4 years straight. Wow. I'd love for you to talk about like the danger of, hitting the brakes. And it's almost like, why can't I coast? Why can't I take it easy? And I really got sold, and I would have like sold you on the mentality of, hey, just coast now. If things are good, why can't you just be grateful at this amount? And what are some of the cautionary, or what are some of the concerns with that mindset?
Yeah. So the way that I've kind of viewed that, it's an image that I've basically viewed, I view in my head. And it's like your point of success, where your success starts perpetuating more success, has like that concept showed me that really like you're going uphill most of life. Like, and most people, they never reach that other side. But for me, reaching that point is where passive income grows to the point where you can continue to invest the majority of your passive income in new investments that continue to create more passive income, and you still have surplus to live the lifestyle the way you want to live. Some people define financial freedom as passive income covering your bills, but I think for me, true financial freedom is when passive income covers your ideal life, and then it covers the investment to continue to create more passive income, so that you're constantly growing. And then you have this flywheel effect where your money just continues to make money. I think that's where the ultra wealthy they get to the point where, as long as you don't make any terrible financial decisions, or you don't have some knucklehead child or whatever that blows the family fortune. I think that's where they just get to the point where, if you have $1 billion and you're earning 3%, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, no kidding.
And you can't live off that. You can live off that, and then, some, and continue to reinvest.
So this number for yourself. I was listening on Young Hustlers the other day, and I think one of the big mistakes you talk about people making is not knowing what they really need to have the lifestyle they want. So not having the right targets. Yeah. Touch on that, because I was fascinated by. Sure, that's a cool concept, but like you broke it down line by line, what you're looking to, what you need to do. And I was like, wow, you really made it real.
Well, I think that for goals to be something that are meaningful, and for goals to give you clarity, and for goals to give you purpose and direction, and for, the purpose of a goal, in my opinion, isn't just to have a target. It's to have something that's so powerful and exciting and inspiring that when you think about it, it actually trumps all of the bullshit and the tough decisions and the hard things that come across your plate every day. Like, life's hard most of the time. And as long as you have a goal that you're very closely tied to and connected to, and it's real for you, like, and by what Vince is talking about, if you guys hadn't seen that show that I did, was I literally went through and said, what house do I want to live in? How much does it cost to rent? What kind of cars do I want the whole family to drive? What kind of, how much is it going to cost in discretionary spending to go out to dinner 3 nights a week and have date nights with my wife and go on, $30,000 vacations 4 times a year and actually spending the time to figure out what that stuff does. Like, we're going to Mykonos, leaving Sunday. We're going to be gone for like 10 days. Like, you got to figure out how much that stuff costs so that you can say, hey, this is the lifestyle that I want. And this is exactly how much it costs. So when you work backwards, you know exactly what actions to take today. And every step that you take will get you closer to the correct goal, because the worst thing to happen would be to spend 5 years or 7 years, because it's not going to happen overnight, 5 years or 7 years marching towards a target. And then you look back and it's been 7 years. And then it's that point that you realize, oh man, I had the wrong target the whole time. It's not going to take $10 million. It's going to take $50 million. And then you're like, dude, I just wasted 7 years of my life with the wrong target. Wasn't thinking big enough, wasn't taking action in a high enough volume. And, that would be probably one of the biggest regrets in life. And people get to that point where they've made the decisions with the incorrect estimation of effort for the majority of their life. And when they finally realize that, it's too late for them to, I wouldn't say too late, because people have done amazing things before. The chances are far less likely for you to get what you want. You make it literally 10 times harder by not doing that correctly in the beginning.
I can relate to that, because the first time I met you, Jarrod, was at the 10X bootcamp, and I told you my goal of 100 mastermind members, and we were kind of walking quickly. You go, why not 1,000? And I went into that event with pulling tactics to get to 100, but then when you said why not 1,000, that was the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
I started now looking at the event from a context of, I wonder how Grant got all these awesome guys to work with him. Now I started looking at like leadership. I started looking at culture. I wasn't looking at offers anymore. And it's so much truth to what you just shared, because there'll be different battles you have to fight to get to these new targets. And you might be looking for the wrong mentor,
Yeah, we actually we came off of we just did a 4-day event. We spent 2 days on sales, where we talked about sales process. Our partner, Frank Kern and the Cardone agency, came in and spoke for a couple hours on marketing, advertising, and basically creating leads. And then on the second 2 days, another partner of ours in Cardone Ventures, Brandon Dawson, came in. And the thing you were just saying, I think, is really important for people to understand. And Brandon said it. He said, companies don't grow because of people. People grow companies. And so the change in perspective, and then the focus of a leader with that type of mindset then becomes around, how do I continue to develop and grow and evolve my people so they grow, which drives the company, but in the process they're meeting their personal, their professional, personal and financial goals.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that was a huge something I'm working through right now. I realize I don't have an in-house team. I don't have everyone working out of one place, and I've got everyone kind of working for different people at the same time. So I don't have that loyalty that you guys have. Didn't realize that was the new battle I had to learn, because I've never been a hiring guy, but I have to figure this out. Fascinating. I love to talk about follow-up.
Yeah.
And, I know you didn't initially get I believe you didn't get the job initially, or did you get hired on the spot, or was this a different job?
Well, no, I mean, I had to get the interview. It took me a month and a half.
That's right.
Following up pretty aggressively, because they weren't really looking to hire people at the time. Like Grant was kind of doing the seminar thing. I don't think they were really needing somebody at the time. They had just hired a new, at the time he was the sales manager, and he was the one I actually interviewed with. But I don't think they were really hot and heavy on hiring somebody. So I literally just beat them into submission with follow-up, and it got me the job.
I love it. I love your saying, I posted this morning, the fortune isn't in the follow-up, but the frequency of the follow-up. And I know you guys are getting buff over there too. So you're experiencing this in the gym as well. It's the time under tension. on those weight. That's right. Yeah. So it's the same thing, but I don't think people realize like they're leaving literally, 90+% money on the table. I don't remember the exact stat, but most people don't buy until at least 5 to 12 attempts.
Yeah, it's 80% after 5 attempts. So, like when you get a lead, if you call it once, you're dead in the water. You might as well not even call them at all. I mean, it's just like so many people. Again, this is an example of an underestimation or a misestimation of the effort and time it takes to get to a done or to get something accomplished. Just like with your goals, just like with the customer, just like with the deal, just like with the guy or girl that you're pursuing. You just have to assume that it's going to take 10 times more than you think. And at that point, you might have a chance.
Yeah, that's freaking fascinating. The fortune is not in the fall. I just had a guy come through after 7 years, a buddy of mine. And,
wow.
7 years. I'm like, dude, I had to tell you though, man, you should have done this 7 years ago. And I think one thing that helps me, I just heard a new idea on buyer's remorse. Well, when people don't buy, they get buyer's remorse as well.
Yeah, well, because their problem doesn't get solved, you know? So then they end up, there's just all kinds of things that go on in people's heads when they do or don't make decisions, So that's why it's important for a salesperson to be sold on what they do and know how and why it helps, because, your conviction and belief in what you do is the thing that moves people. It moves people to move across country for a new job. It moves people to, take on big projects with big impacts, like, humanitarian things. Like, you got to have a big commitment to commit your life to doing something where there's really not a lot of money in. So, but it's belief in the cause. It's belief in themselves. It's belief in the leader. It's belief in their partner or their husband or wife or whatever, it's really that's the thing that moves people. I mean, when Vince can be so captivating and so inspiring and so committed that he can get people to say, yes, here's 25 grand. I want to be like you because I see you as a successful person in the fitness space. And I believe that you can transfer those skills to me and then make me successful as well. When a CEO can come into a company and commit that and convey that conviction and belief in the vision and the mission of the team, to where you can enlist people to support and push as hard as you are. When a general or a lieutenant in the military can continue to inspire and push people to go through hard missions and accomplish impossible things because of the duty attached to it. Like this, it's the most powerful thing is belief and conviction. I mean, that's for people to experience and for people to deliver. If you can deliver belief and conviction, it's magic, and you'll know when you meet these people.
Yeah, I love it.
It's powerful to convey, and it's powerful to receive.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, people are buying certainty. They're buying in an uncertain world, and I think we live in a world that worships certainty these days. So, when you do believe in what you've got to say and what you've got to offer, people are going to come along and to back up that belief. I think one of the reasons I think we also live in a culture that worships confidence.
That worships what?
Unfortunately, people have false confidence.
Yeah.
And they don't have confidence.
Well, like the reason that people lack confidence is because they lack certainty and they're missing information. And so if you don't have the right information, if you're not certain, then your confidence will be low. If you have to run across a frozen pond and you don't know how thin the ice is, you will be unconfident and you will lack certainty. If I know that the ice is 3 feet thick, I'm good. If I don't, I'm a little uncertain.
Yeah.
And so, just think about what people are experiencing right now. This is why it's so important to have certainty as a business professional, salesperson, entrepreneur, whatever. Think about how much uncertainty there is in the marketplace right now. The single, like this, the most concrete bedrock concepts of financial security, as an example. Buy a home. Everybody's been educated to buy a home. And now we're finding out, well, maybe home ownership isn't what it's cracked up to be. Everybody's got to go to college. Well, maybe that's changed. Maybe college isn't the right thing to do. You should drink milk every day. You should drink milk. Like, people are developing asthma and all this crazy stuff because of drinking milk. You should eat whatever you want in moderation. And then they're like, no, man, you need to be eating like proteins and fats and healthy. Like, you can't be going out like eating bread and pasta and like these are things that like back in the day, this was like concrete. And now this new information comes out and it's like, well, maybe this isn't right. So people challenge everything and they're uncertain about everything because there have been so many reasons for people to lose certainty and confidence. So knowing that as the person on the other side of the conversation, you have to 10x your certainty and your confidence. And there's an activity you can do to do that, particularly with a product or service. Number one, why would somebody do business with me over the competition? Number two, why would somebody pay more to do business with me over the competition? Number three, why would somebody go into debt for my product? Number four, why would somebody pay more to do business with me, Jarrod Glandt, salesperson for Cardone, than Todd Straw, salesperson for Cardone? Why me? Like, what is the differentiator for you in your space with your offer? Assuming that you are the most expensive, assume the worst case scenario. Maybe you're the cheapest. Assume that people had to pay more for yours. How would you justify it? You're not built. This belief is not like some people, very small portion, have this intrinsic fire that burns and they change the world. But most of us, really talking about myself, dude, I had to learn this. I had to learn conviction. I had to learn belief. I had to learn why Grant over somebody else. I had to learn why me over somebody else. I had to learn why I needed to push into a deal. Like it's a lot of this is learned, and people assume that they should automatically know this stuff, and then they get discouraged because they see other people doing it. But this is work, dude. Like the Grant Cardone thing is work. The Jarrod Glandt thing is work. And, there's probably 50-50 good days and bad days. I don't know. But people think, oh, man, you must have no bad days. And some people have that sticker that says no bad days. It's bull. Like the difference is I can still be great when I have a bad day. I can still push when I have a bad day. I'll still show up when I have a bad day. I'll still show up if I have a bad attitude. Like I know, like the greats, if 50% of days are bad and 50% of days are, it might be worse. It might be 30% of days are good and 70% of days are bad. The difference maker is the greatest people, the most successful people in the world take those 70% of days that are bad and they perform anyways.
Yeah, I love it, man. So what you're really talking about here too is skills. I mean, you guys have skills. I've seen you up on stage, role play, back and forth, overcoming objections. You guys fire like bullets. And I think the reason the confidence is low, the certainty is low, is because people underestimate, back to this awesome theme, the amount of time it takes to develop a skill of a script.
Yeah. And really,
and overcoming objections. What skills do you feel? Go ahead.
A poor script practiced with high frequency is better than the perfect script practiced in low frequency. Why? Confidence and certainty. You don't need to have the right words all the time. You need to be practiced enough so that you can deliver them with confidence and certainty. So like when you talk about skills, dude, I don't know. You've got muscles. You got bigger muscles than me. Why? Because you're in the gym all the time. Like you know how to exercise, you know how to diet, you know how to eat so that your body performs at its optimum levels. And you've been doing it long enough that you probably don't have to think a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with us. Like when we train, role play, practice, and immerse ourselves in all this content every day, like we don't have to think about it. Like we did this, we just finished these 4 days. Like I could have done all the 2 days that we did. We we had workbooks out and we were going around the room and we broke the sales process down into 6 pieces, and we had people write out their entire sales process. We'd teach, we'd give them the assignment, and then we'd sit there and make them write their process out. I could have done that 2 days without a PowerPoint deck because I know the material. Brandon came up the next 2 days. He did 2 days on how to scale a business, how to scale people, how to align people with the vision. Basically, how do you install the baseline ingredients so that you can actually build a company up through the people, have the people build it from within. He could have done those 2 days. He probably could have done 10 days straight without PowerPoint slides because he's been doing this for 25 years, 30 years. So the skills that you need are the skills that will be most beneficial to you are the skills that you practice the most.
Yeah. So let's just run through a couple. I like to talk about, if you had one sword, would it be sales and closing? Like, what's the high income skills?
It would be, if somebody came to me and they said, I'm the best prospector on the face of the earth, I would hire them before I hired somebody that said they were the strongest closer on the face of the earth. So, my opinion, because I know how hard it is to create a prospect out of thin air, somebody that can do that can fall into that customer can fall into a mediocre sales process and still get done. Again, when somebody agrees to a presentation, think about this. When somebody says, yeah, you know what? I will spend 35, 45, 55, 60 minutes with you and listen to your sales pitch. Think about what they are agreeing to. This is why that statistic that says the average customer is 57% of the way through the process before they agree to meet with you.
57% off. So they're already contemplated.
They're already in the, dude, like, would you give me an hour of your time?
I love
to talk to you about how to sell you? Hey, I've got a new program, Vince. It's a pizza delivery program. I'm going to deliver you a pizza every other day for an entire year. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, they're already good to go.
You're like, dude, I don't eat pizza. Sorry, not my thing. Like, you're not going to give me the time. If you did say yes, then maybe you're thinking, man, my kids love pizza. I'd love to have pizza here every other day.
Right.
There's something that is creating enough interest. Dude, time is more valuable than money. And when somebody's willing to exchange time with you, then they have some value in what you're talking about. Unless they have no money. People with a lot of money have very little time. People with a lot of time have very little money.
I love that. Let's sit on this piece on the prospecting. So are we talking now about visibility, attention, branding, basically getting your name out in the world? I remember you guys saying, basically there's 2 reasons your business will go out. 1, they don't know who you are, or 2, they forget who you are. And you're right, because I've never had the strongest sales pages. I've never been known as like a great copywriter, but I was prolific for almost a decade on YouTube with my fitness videos. So after someone watches 5 or 6 videos, they don't need a sales page. They just need the order button.
Yeah. So is that
what we're talking about?
The internet has, so when you say, hey, let's talk about prospecting specifically, what I define prospecting as is a creation of a sales-ready opportunity. Now, that encompasses a lot of different disciplines. That encompasses the attention piece, the branding piece, the social piece, the cold calling piece. Follow-up for me is, if follow-up was 100%, 80% of follow-up or better, 85% of follow-up lands prior to the customer seeing a presentation for your product. Most people, when they think follow-up, like when most people think follow-up, they're like, I'm going to continue to call somebody after they've purchased. Like, hey, I've purchased something. Yeah, how was the follow-up? Oh, the follow-up was great. Like, just think about what people think about follow-up. When I say, the company Cardone is good with follow-up, most people take that as, wow, after you buy something from Cardone, they do a really good job. My opinion. I think that 85% of follow-up happens before, most of the time before you even talk to a customer, and definitely before you present a product.
Interesting. And is this through your, podcast, YouTube channel? Are you talking about social media, your ads, all your advertising?
Everything
events.
Everything that comes in front of a customer saying, yes, I'll give you time.
Gotcha. This is really aggressive, and I think really challenge people in terms of how they should be spending their money. And it's, pour every single dollar into building your name, your brand, getting recognition, because that's what's going to produce more ROI and opportunities than anything else. And I think that's a hard thing for people to wrap their mind around when they're trained to. Everyone wants to expand and contract at the same time. You guys make a great joke about flying under the radar. The only people that do that are criminals.
Yeah.
You got to get over that. Talk about this.
Well, first of all, just one thing, one of the, I think the deficiencies of why people struggle with follow-up is the same reason why people give up on their trainer after 30 days is because they expect the results to happen much faster than they do. Again, this goes all the way back down to underestimation of effort. So like when you're following up, you're making deposits. When you're going to the gym, you're making deposits for a future result. And the more you can get committed to making a future deposit, a present day deposit for a future goal, the further away that goal is, the more discipline it requires. And when you can say, hey, I'm making disciplined decisions today for something that is going to happen 20 years from now, those are the people that become the most successful. Now, talking about flying under the radar, look, attention drives everything. If nobody knows you, they can't buy anything from you. If nobody, Grant has this thing, he said, if don't toot your own horn is what people say. And then he's like, well, dude, what's the purpose of the horn? If I don't toot it, who will?
Right.
Like you can't expect anybody to promote you. You can't expect anybody to promote your brand. You can, even Grant doesn't leave promotion up to our team. He's got 135 employees here. He doesn't leave promotion up to us. He goes out and he's posting 90% of the stuff that you see, Instagram particularly. He's all over Instagram. So, look, like being the ghost, never got anybody anything. Attention is so powerful that even without a product, it can create superstars like the Kardashians or, Paris Hilton. Nobody knew who Paris Hilton was until she started going out and getting all on social media. And I mean, she was like the original, like influencer, right? So
yeah. What are some maybe simple practical steps to, look, maybe looking at a guy like me, Vince, you got to get more visibility, man. What are some, I love to hear specific challenges, like, what platforms would you be pouring all your time and money into, and just kind of what's the strategy? Because obviously, there is capacity.
All of them. I mean, yes. Like obviously, like Instagram and Facebook are going to be everybody's favorite right now. Instagram's really hot, so everybody's all over Instagram. Facebook becoming less and less, but you just have to know you just have to know that things flow and things change. We launched an advertising agency with Frank Kern. Our primary focus is running ads for people on Facebook and Instagram. That's what we do. And we have a great strategy for it. And it works unbelievably well for brick and mortar businesses. And, the beautiful thing about that business is that is the business that we operate under right now. But if Instagram and Facebook were to go down, where would we go next? And it's not just about the platform. It's about the fundamentals of the agency. Frank Kern is an ad guy. He can write a sales letter and do direct mail and be unbelievably successful with it. And that's where his background is. So when you say, hey, I've got the best ad guy in the world, no matter what happens with the hot platform, no matter how it changes, if the internet completely shut down and we were all not connected anymore, an ad man will still find a way to create opportunities. So when you think of, hey, which platform should I be investing the most time in? Invest the most time in the ones that make you money, but you have to know these other platforms. You got to know email. You got to know Snapchat. You got to know Twitter. You got to know LinkedIn. You got to know YouTube. You got to know Facebook. You got to know Instagram. But if you commit the majority amount of your time to the ones that are working the most, that doesn't mean neglect the other ones. You still need to learn how to use them and have a presence there. Because you look at an influencer that has 400,000 followers on Instagram or 500,000 followers on Instagram. What happens if Instagram shuts down for the day? They don't have anywhere else to go. What happens if Facebook has to the government shuts down Facebook because of another data breach, and they shut it down because it's a national security issue? Like, think about how many people's businesses are based on that, on Facebook and Instagram, whose businesses would literally in a day cease to exist. Yeah.
Hey, with all this being said, I'm curious, this is kind of a money question. You guys are really heavy, money's useless until you use it, play offense, not defense, especially for the first 2-3 years of, 2/3 of your life. Just curious, kind of similar in ages, you got a young family as well. What's just your, mindset around, saving some, like you got to put away a little bit, like,
I mean, I invest most of my money. I don't save it though. I invest
percentage, or is it, like,
I don't.
So like what percentage, maybe just more some what's some practical advice on like how much do you invest? Is it every penny, or I just kind of like to hear
whatever I have left over. I mean, yeah. I leave a little bit of money in like cash reserves, but I've gotten to the point where my passive income, as I've increased my expenses, which happens when you have a family and blah blah blah, all that stuff, like it just happens. My passive income covers the majority of my living expenses. So, and as I continue to invest more and more and more, the passive income grows more and more and more. So, I take probably 60% of my income and invest it.
Gotcha.
60% of my gross income probably gets invested every year.
So is that primarily Cardone Capital?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up with Cardone Capital in Canada? Like, can Canadians,
Yep.
like, would you ever do what you're doing in the States in Canada?
Well, you can invest in Cardone Capital from Canada.
Right. But would you ever come to Canada, or is that a silly question? I'm trying to think.
I mean, they could buy property anywhere in the world.
Uh-huh. Gotcha.
And anybody in any country can invest into the fund.
Gotcha. So let's just quickly touch on that. My good friend Craig, he just invested with you guys.
Oh,
I think
nice.
$100,000. I think he just sent you guys.
Uh-huh.
Well, I know he did. He just told me.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this myself. I'm like, hey, I've got cash flow. Should I get myself a duplex? Should I? I'm kind of in that like prospect phase. I'm still like trying to figure out. I'm in a house. We pay quite a bit to just be in this house, being in Toronto. And it's a big yard and that it should, but I'm like, is this the best way to reinvest my money? Just let's touch on real estate. It'd be crazy not to touch on this since this is your world.
So I'm not licensed to give financial advice. Like all I can do is tell you how I make decisions.
Of course. Yeah, that's what I mean.
My primary source of income is growing the Cardone Enterprise. Like that is my primary source of income. The more time I can commit to that, the better it is for the organization, and the more the organization gets from me, and the more revenue the organization will produce, which will then deliver to me more money. So for me, if I was out trying to buy my own deals, if I, when you're buying duplexes and things like that, you can pay somebody to manage it, but really they don't produce enough cash flow to support that, where it's worthwhile. Income is the most important financial tool that you have. If you can continue to increase your income, that will be the single factor that determines how fast you get rich. It's not one investment that you're going to make. The first investment that I made with Grant 6 years ago was $100,000. And at the time I was getting a $500 a month check. And I was like, I gave up $100,000 of security for $500. Since then, I'm in year 6 now since I made that investment, maybe 7. That one deal has paid me, distributed to me, $400,000 plus cash flow every month. Plus I still own the deal.
Wow.
So this is, but they don't all work out like that. Not every deal works out like that. But if you give real estate time, based on the last 50 years, if you invest in real estate and you give it time, you get the double, you get the triple. You know, if Grant buys a $3 million deal and puts a $4 million deal and puts $1 million down, and that property appreciates in 3 years to $6 million, and he sells it, how much money did he make on his money? What percentage did he make on his money? He got 200% of his money in 3 years. Would you agree that that's pretty solid?
Yeah.
So you can use the leverage that real estate provides you with, and if you can give time, then time allows for appreciation, and appreciation is where you start really multiplying your returns, and the cash flow simply pays you every month while you wait for the double. In the simplest way to explain it, that's what it is. Now, there's all these events that can happen, a refinance. One of the deals refinance, like last year, I had $800,000 and change in real estate income, and I paid 0 tax on it. Because in a refinance, you're recapitalizing your initial investment, and it's a non-taxable event. So I had about $440K or $380K that came out from a refi from 2 deals that I paid 0 tax on. Then I had another deal that sold, and I pulled $470 out of that deal. And because I rolled it in, now on a sale, you're taxed unless you roll the money, the proceeds from the sale into another like-kind property. And it's called a 1031 exchange, and then you don't pay tax on it. So there's tax benefits, there's cash flow benefits, and there's upside appreciation. Real estate is an unbelievable investment, but if you're going to put $100,000 in once, you're going to limit the benefits of the long-term thing. So what I did was I said, as soon as I got another $100,000, the first deal actually refinanced. So I got $30,000 of my 100 back. And then at the time I had 120K. So I put 150K into the second deal. 9 months later, that deal refinanced because the market was so hot and we bought it right. I got $90,000 back of my 150 non-taxable, rolled that into the next deal with another 200K. So now I start stacking this and rolling this money. And now over the last 7 years, I've got probably 2 million, 2.3 million, 2.2 million, something like that, dollars of cash invested. That's probably worth 6.5 or 7.
And this is just long game for you, Jarrod?
It's gotta be. That's the only way this thing works. It does not work if you're trying. This is not a stock. This is not liquid. I've got, 25 grand in play money in a stock or in the stock market in a TD Ameritrade account that I play with. But it's like gambling. It's like, but if I needed to pull that 25 grand out, I'd get access to it. The real estate thing is a sacred thing. It's for me, I'm building my passive income. I'm basically buying cash flow. I'm buying passive income. And that's how you have to view it. For me, again, this may not be for you. For me, passive income for me is financial freedom. Passive income for me is the holy grail. If I can get to a point where I'm making 300, 400, 500 grand a month passive income, that is, in my previous description, what creates that perpetual wealth system where, 400 grand, 500 grand a month. I mean, and that's taxed as investment income, which is like it's 22%, 23% or something, as opposed to 38 or 40%. So it's like half. You get taxed at half the rate. So if it's 400K, rather than paying 200K in taxes, I pay 100. I got 300K net to live off of. You got to spend a ton of money to spend 100 grand a month. And then I still have 200 grand per month, $2.5 million a year to continue to invest to create more cash flow.
How much would you have to give you guys to get around 15K a month in cash flow?
Probably 2.5 or 3 million bucks.
Yeah, these are great targets. Like it really makes things come to life.
Yeah, but then see that target. Look, like if you just figure 300K, 10% annually of a $3 million investment is 300K. Most of these deals are 5% or 6% or something like that. So you cut that in half. That's 150 grand a year in passive income. Now,
Gotcha.
that does not count for any type of event along the way that would be attributed to appreciation or an exit or anything like that, that would then pay you. That's when you get the pop.
Right.
You know, that $3 million you invest would buy $9 million of real estate. That $9 million of real estate goes up to 12 million, which is very realistic. You've got $3 million in equity. Now, when you sell, your $3 million has made you $3 million more, 100% return.
Wow, man, you guys make it sound so simple and clear, and just say, I just got to execute now, work my butt off. And just, it's like right there. One of the things I just love about you guys, I know we're coming up to our time, is you just keep it so simple. You know?
But simplicity comes through understanding.
Right.
You know, like when most people create PowerPoint decks for a 90-minute talk, there's 60 pages. When Grant creates a deck for a 3-hour talk, it's 9 slides. You know, you can simplify things with knowledge. And so it's just like, I don't know everything about real estate. I'm not a real estate guy. I don't work on the real estate team. I'm just an investor, but I know enough about what I understand to be able to communicate it that way. And that's what I need to know to have confidence and certainty to understand it, to know that, hey, this, no matter what, real estate's going to be a good gig. Real estate has been the highest return asset class in history. More millionaires were created through investments in real estate than any asset class in history. So, you know, I'm kind of betting on the last 100 years to the fact that real estate's probably going to continue to be a good investment. And the fact that there's less land and more people in and of itself means that the demand for property and a place to live is going to continue to go up. When there is a high amount of quantity, there's very low demand. When there's high demand, it's because there's low quantity. And when there's high demand and low quantity, prices go up. So when we buy stuff in these markets where it's cheap to live, there's good jobs there, the demand increases. That demand can only grow out so far before they're like, hey, there's not another piece of dirt that we can build on. The barriers to entry go up. It becomes more difficult for a developer to come in and buy because they have to overpay for a piece of an old beat up building that they then have to rebuild on. So then the economics of the whole thing really start, like basic economics, supply, demand, start coming into play with the whole deal. So I don't know. It's been good for me. It's going to continue to be good for me. I'm going to continue to do it. I invest in startups and things like that on the side as well. So, you know, it's my primary investment.
I love it. Hey, Jarrod, thanks so much, man. Maybe just a few really quick rapid fire questions here. What do you I just got to say thank you again. This call's been outstanding. So I've just taken as a gazillion notes here while you're talking. And, you know, what are you personally looking forward to most in the near future? Personal, professional, physical?
Yeah, you know, we launched the ad agency. It's blowing up. We signed up like 130 clients in the first 4 weeks that we had it open. So
Wow.
I'm really excited about the future prospects of that. Every single one of our training customers advertises, and we now have a solution that gets people the highest quality leads for the lowest cost of acquisition. And we got a great partner there. We're going to continue to reinvest in our core programs. We have another partnership called Cardone Ventures, where we're actually going to be taking equity positions in companies. We're going to be partnering as a consultant with companies. And so for me, that's really sort of the completion of the offering. It's, we can drive people traffic. We can, through our ad agency, we can use our sales training platforms and education to help people convert the traffic once it's in their business. But then once we create those two things, there's still limiting factors for most business owners that prevent them from growing and scaling their business. And so Cardone Ventures allows people to get access to the information to scale their people, their systems, their processes. Then based on companies that come into that system, if, for example, they want to accelerate their growth, like let's say, for example, your business is doing $2 million a year and you think it can get to 10 or 15 or 20, but you can have an honest conversation with yourself and go, I don't have the ability or the skills to get it there in a short period of time. I could probably do it over the next 10 or 12 or 15 years, assuming nothing major happens in business that disrupts my business. But I'd rather do it with a partner who I pay a little piece to get it done in 4 years. So that's a really exciting part of our business. We're already having clients jump into that program. And if you want more information on any of those things, on Cardone Ventures, on how we can partner with your business, you have to be doing at least $2 million a year in business. If you want information about our training programs and our event that we run, or if you want more information on the agency, hit me up on Instagram, DM me. I'm pretty active there via DM, maybe not so much on posting, but super active on DM. I try to get back to everybody. It's at Jarrod Glandt. Vince probably has my name spelt in the title of the podcast or somewhere. So
we'll put in the show notes too. And hey, just last on a personal note, how the gains in the gym going and how's daddy life going?
The gym gains would be going better if I was more strict with my diet and I got into the gym more frequently. I'm working out 4 days a week. So that, I think I'm getting good workouts in, but it's just discipline, like anywhere you lack discipline, you're going to lack the results that you want. So for me, it's just, I know I'm not as disciplined with my diet as I should be. Dad life, on the other hand, is phenomenal. It's amazing experiencing that. The biggest challenge for me with that is, being in the position that I am requires me to be very forward thinking and not so much thinking about what deal can we get done today, but what deals can we get done in the next 3 years or 5 years or 10 years that can help grow this to $1 billion company and brand. And that future forward focus can sometimes be hard to be in the present today. And so as a dad, what's been a really interesting exercise for me is really trying to focus on being present and having intentional time with my little boy, Jake, who I love dearly. So we're going on vacation to Greece. It's the first time we've taken a trip since we had him. He's coming, the nanny's coming. So we're going to spend 10 days just hanging out and be loving on him, playing with him, throwing him in the pool, because he swims now. And
that's amazing.
And, just having a great time.
They swim early in Florida, eh?
Yeah. Well, we there's so much water around here that, and drowning for kids that age is like one of the, if not the highest cause for death. And so we started getting him infant safety rescue lessons early on. So he's still going through them and he's still learning. But it's something we have to do. So
that's great. I used to hang out with Italian buddies there. They came from the old school fear mentality that they didn't put their kids in swimming lessons because they were afraid that they would drown.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's crazy, right? But hey, Jarrod, it's always great to talk with you. I always feel like I'm talking to a real guy, somebody who's raw, real, and just appreciate your knowledge and your humility too, man. I just love your transparency with what's going on in your life and where you're taking this. And you've been a mentor for me too. So excited to get to more events this coming year. And
dude, you got to come to our scaling summit. You got to come to this executive thing because it's truly like I'm so excited that we've added it because it is the thing that keeps businesses
just
small.
give me all.
You know, they run into it. They run into a limit. So, you know, we take the lid off. I'll get you the info on the next one.
Sounds good, man. All right. Hey, listen, just to wrap it up, where can people learn more about what you're doing, connect with you, tap into what you're doing, channels, websites, anything?
Yeah, at Grant Cardone for everything Grant Cardone, at Jarrod Glandt, JARROD GLANDT, on basically every other platform. Young Hustler Podcast every Thursday noon on Facebook. We load those to iTunes. You can also view them on Grant Cardone TV. But again, agency questions, Cardone Venture Partnership questions, or training and consulting questions, hit me up on IG. Just DM me.
Awesome, man. Hey, guys. This is the time where you get a chance to bless someone. Who are you thinking of right now that would really, really benefit from this episode? I know you're thinking of at least one person, and you're welcome to showcase this on your social media. But hey, bare minimum, let's tag somebody right now. Take a screenshot of this podcast. Be a go-giver. Hook someone up. Drop a one-liner that Jarrod shared on this call, and tag both of us, and we'll likely share it back out with our audience to give you some visibility. This is a really simple way to get on our radar as well, and just to keep paying it forward. So, hey, Jarrod, once again, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Always a pleasure spending some time with you.
Awesome. All right, guys, have a great day, positive day, memorable day, and a productive one. All right, see y'all soon.